And I've said before, and I apologize for repeating. Oh, I didn't. I think Sullivan, Jacob, my national security advisor. I'm leaving out a lot of people here. I apologize. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But there's a lot that is happening. I used to.
If you ever needed a sign that the most powerful government in the world is not being ruled by elected officials, that's it right there. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot of very important information to get into, especially with the larger questions surrounding the involvement of the FBI during the January 6th events, as well as the latest information coming out from the meeting that just happened between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all on this independent media organization that lives to absolutely call out the larger hypocrisy, as perfectly represented by this photo by Kamala Harris that was titled Diversity, with a whole bunch of white women with a person of color serving them. And I don't know about you, but this is repugnant, self-congratulatory, egotistical narcissism at the highest degree, which absolutely deserves to be ridiculed. And we like to do that here on this independent media organization that is becoming more and more by the day a t-shirt company, with some of our t-shirts becoming more popular than our actual videos. I'm not kidding you. Check out thebestpoliticalshirts.com, where you can get very important shirts like the one that I'm wearing right now, and others that will surely help you start a conversation with a stranger or a fellow like-minded, awakened person that you can meet in your local community. A lot of these shirts are available in long-sleeve tank tops. You name it, we got it. Check it all out on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Click the link down below right now. And we're going to have another very important video available for you later on today on lukeuncensored.com. Don't forget to stay tuned for that. The best way to find those videos, plus a lot more of what we have going on, is by checking out our email list on the top right-hand corner of WeAreChange.org. Input your email, stay in touch with us, because we're going to have a lot of exciting details and updates coming to the website very soon, with a lot of projects and even events that we're going to be doing in real life in just a few days from now. So again, sign up on the email list. It costs you nothing, and I'm very excited to be announcing the events that I will be doing very soon. Now, when it came to this very anticipated meeting between Biden and Putin, we have seen a lot of media buildup about Biden being tough, being strong, wagging his finger and taking on the Russian president head on. The meeting between these two world leaders was scheduled just before the G7, before the NATO summit. There was a lot of hype that Joe Biden was going to be very tough on the Russian president, even right before meeting him, giving a speech to U.S. troops saying, quote, "I'll tell Mr. Putin what I want him to know," and Biden literally walked in with flashcards into the meeting, and now his campaign, his administration, is denying that Biden nodded when asked if he trusts Putin. Yes, that's the talking points that are coming out of this very important meeting, which of course the media was kept away from during the proceedings of. The media was ushered away. What happened? Well, we have two press conferences, one from Joe Biden, one from Vladimir Putin, that talk about the meeting. According to body language experts, the situation was very tense, and the meeting even ended 1 hour earlier than it was expected to end. There was no break, and now we have the statements from both of these world leaders to dissect. Now, Joe Biden is saying that he threatened Russia with a cyber response against Vladimir Putin and, quote, even gave him a red line of 16 no-hack infrastructure locations that he says the Russians need to stay away from. Biden also looks like he just snapped at some reporters when asked if he thought Russia would change. He said he does not believe that this will happen. The Russian president announced that the United States agreed with Russia on the topic of Ukraine, which has been involved in the proxy war between the West and the East, that the details of their agreement is based on the Minsk agreements, which was a peace agreement signed in September of 2014 that created a ceasefire during the conflict that was unfolding in Ukraine at the time. We have seen Ukraine being used previously as a geopolitical pawn for both Russia and the United States' benefit, and this is an important chess piece in the larger geopolitical game that is unfolding between these two countries. countries. It was also announced by Vladimir Putin that the United States and Russia have agreed to return ambassadors to each other's countries and to restart diplomatic operations, which is a sign, at least one sign, of somewhat of the easing of tensions, especially since now communication lines are open between the two countries. And other than that, there really haven't been other agreements that we know publicly that have been met. Putin said that the talks were, quote, very productive and there was no hostility between the two world leaders. There was previous talks about the possibility of a prisoner swap, which didn't happen here. It looks like, by and large, the United States is backing down on their larger influence of Ukraine. This no-hacking infrastructure red line by Biden does propose a lot of problems moving forward, since we know cyber attacks and hacks could be masked and done covertly in a way where no one really knows who's responsible for them, and how this red line will unfold in the future, only time will tell. It's also important to note here that former Secretary of State and head of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, released a statement before the meeting that Putin would, quote, make short work of Biden, and that, quote, America's enemies can smell the president's weakness. And as we know from previous statements made by the Russian president, he believes that the United States is run by secretive men in black suits and not the U.S. president, saying that presidents change but major policies do not. And I believe the Russian president definitely has some merit to speculate, especially with what people are calling the cognitive decline of the U.S. president in front of our eyes. Now, this is all the information that was publicly announced, but what we didn't know is that during the time of this meeting, the United States decided to launch stealth jets in response to Russia's biggest naval exercise that was happening off of the coast of Hawaii, 300 miles away from U.S. territory. China also decided to flex their military might by flying over their warplanes around Taiwan right after an American carrier group arrived in that country. So militarily, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we do not know about. There's a lot of saber rattling, and there most likely was a lot of the conversation that is being hidden away from the general public that, as of right now, we could only speculate on. Now, I'm not a big fan of speculating, but with the war games and military troop movements, this shows a larger insecurity and unpredictability when it comes to these meetings and the agreements that were made largely in private. There was also a larger question about the president's son's involvement in Ukraine previously beforehand, and if that would play into effect into some of the decisions being made here. Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden, is known for some very shady dealings with Burisma, an energy company out of Ukraine. This is also the same son right now that is selling his, quote, abstract art for $500,000 per piece to anonymous, confidential, quote, collectors, which is raising some very serious questions about the potential influence that could be very easily bought here. Most art, especially modern art, by the way, mostly used as a scam to money launder, if you didn't know that already. And as larger corruption allegations still swirl around the Joe Biden presidency, his administration, or whoever's behind it, whoever's calling the shot, is making very, quote, aggressive moves, spending an estimated $77 million to, quote, stop domestic terrorism. Who's a domestic terrorist? What is an act of domestic terrorism? Well, according to the Biden presidency, the acts that happened on January 6th, and now a multi-agency operation will be joined by big tech social media companies to track down and prosecute, quote, potential extremists, while at the same time trying to encourage neighbors to report and snitch on each other for, quote, potential radicalization of friends and family members. It couldn't get more Orwellian than this, as well as dangerous and totalitarian. A lot of the terms announced here by the White House are very vague, are very generalized. And how will this massive power grab be used? Essentially turning the war on terror domestically? Well, we're only going to see. But with some of the latest allegations that were recently talked about by Tucker Carlson, there should be a lot more skepticism and questions, especially around the January 6th event, which the federal government refuses to release very important video footage of, along with other details and facts that they're keeping secret from the general public, as we're finding out that a lot of participants in the Capitol riot were, quote, FBI operatives. Many of them are not being charged, even though they organized, carried out, and heavily participated in the January 6th events. And there's allegations against the FBI that there was a lot more FBI operatives, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, since the FBI routinely has a history of infiltrating, setting up events, arresting the people that they set up, usually some mentally ill people. Yes, there's a history of this happening. The Guardian, even 9 years ago, detailed this extensively with their headline, Fake Terror Plots, Paid Informants, the Tactics of FBI Entrapment Questioned, which details how they had their fingerprints with events that they organized and then took credit for stopping. Now, what happened on January 6th? What was the involvement of the FBI? We still don't know, but I encourage people to ask questions surrounding this, since this is very plausible, especially with the history of the FBI, that what happened on that day could potentially highlight more sinister actions by the federal government that should come to light. There should be a lot of questions, a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests, a lot of disclosures, a lot of video footage. 10,000 hours of footage from that day has not yet been released. What was the role of unindicted co-conspirators? I think those are legitimate questions which could shed light on the actual truth of what happened that day. People need to be held responsible, and you could only do that if you have accountability, which as of right now, according to my own personal opinion, we have very little of. That's my perspective. If you think I was wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why down in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I don't see myself doing anything else, but as you know, our time here could be limited, and again, I can't stress this enough. You guys need to sign up on the free email list to make sure that we still exist no matter what as an independent media organization. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.